Hello. Good evening. My name is Elias Munsha. I'm so happy that you could join me today. My name is Elias Munsha. I'm going to give you a few minutes to share with as many people as possible because we have somewhere to get to today, right? We have somewhere to get to today. So please do share. I'm going to give you a few minutes to share with as many people as possible. Please do. I'm talking about the Nkunika case and the grade 12 requirement. Okay? Now, I just want to take your questions. I have no agenda at all. So I don't have a pre-prepared remarks or anything like that. So what I want to do is I just want to answer some questions, okay? So here is the link of there it is. So there is the link. I just want to answer some questions here because there is so much misinformation and confusion. You know, this confusion, I call it akavundula, you know. Akavundula, you know, about 8 weeks before nominations, the Constitutional Court throws akavundula into the mix. It's extremely serious, okay? So I just want to answer a few questions. So if you have a question, please do so. Chipoka mlenga, epondi, okay? So epondi. Panzu Shamboko, I don't know, where are we going to start from? Because sometimes we just need to have a little bit of order in the way the questions are coming, because sometimes, you know, we are getting it all over the place. So I just want us to be focused on issues. Let's be focused on issues, right? Today is Sunday. Here in Alberta, we have what is known as savings time. Savings time. So we've now gained an hour. We've lost an hour. We've sprung forward, which means between Alberta and Zambia, we had 9-hour difference. From today, it's now 8-hour difference, which is pretty interesting. Yeah, okay. Number, please. Muncherereko ati mfiro kula seka bwino pantu nganshire seka bwino na la 9. So nakola seka bwino. I've just seen Mubanga Mukume, who has copied a status from one of Zambia's great lawyers, okay, Dixon Jere, who is running in Matero who is trying to get a nomination from Matero. Now, I've read what Dixon Jere has written, okay? If you haven't done so, maybe you can read, but here is my response. This is just so interesting. Now, this is just so interesting. Let's see there. Okay. Now, the issue that I think Council Jere raises is the idea that Ziale demands full grade 12 certificates in order to be admitted into the LPEQ course, right? Now, the question that we must deal with as a matter of law, all right? The problem I'm finding is we are bringing in too many things that are not relevant to the constitutional question. So when discussing the Constitution, I'm hearing people say, Zanaco, human resource, demands a grade 12. Or Airtel, human resource, demands a grade 12. Or this and this demand a grade 12. That is not what we are talking about here. This has nothing to do with what the practices are in human resource. This is a constitutional question. What does the Constitution of Zambia say? What language does it use? It is not about what Celtel does, or Airtel, or Zanaco, or what you do when you're applying for a job at all these places. That is not the question. Okay, so all of you that are using what happens with your workplaces, you are not discussing what you are discussing is completely irrelevant. It is as simple as that. The issue is not what does Airtel do in its human resources practices. The issue is, what does the Constitution of Zambia say? Right? So you go to the text. What is the Constitution of Zambia saying? All right? With due respect to all your respective organizations that you work for, I have a lot of respect for Zanaco and Airtel and Ziale and whatever reasons that people are going to give. Tremendous respect. But that is not the question we are dealing with. All right. Now, in answering the Dixon Jerry article, here's another thing. According to Zambian law, the Legal Practitioners Act, the LLB is not the only qualification to practice law in Zambia. There are primarily two ways in which you can become a Zambian legal practitioner according to the Legal Practitioners Act: school and a practical program, an apprenticeship program, where you go and sit in the office of a practicing lawyer for 5 years. You agree on an articling term with Ziale, and through that, you can become a Zambian legal practitioner. That is the law. So, the fact that an institution has a certain regulation does not make that regulation constitutional. You understand that? Does not even make it law. Policy is not law, because policy in some cases can be inconsistent with what the law provides. Let's take the Legal Practitioners Act, for example. The Zambia Institute of Advanced Legal Education, as a creature of statute, it is supposed to do what? To follow what the law says. So, to the extent that policy says a full grade 12 certificate, if the law does not demand for a full grade 12 certificate, then that policy is inconsistent with primary governing legislation. All right. So the profession of a lawyer in Zambia, you can become a professional lawyer in Zambia according to legislation, even if you don't have a Bachelor of Laws degree. That is what the law of Zambia says. Cap 31. Is it Cap 31 or Cap 30? I mistake between the Law Association of Zambia Act and the Legal Practitioners Act. One is Cap 30, one is Cap 31. Anyway, that's what it says. So now, you cannot begin using policy as if it were the law. Anyway, what is the next question? What is the meaning of grade 12 and its equivalent? I think the Constitutional Court has answered that question. The grade 12 and its equivalent means, is it 5 O-level credits or 5 O-level passes or 6 O-level passes? Somewhere there. That is what constitutes a grade 12 education and its equivalent. Right? That's what the Constitutional Court is saying. All right. Back to the Dixon Jerry case issue. Let's now talk about how you interpret the law. Okay. Interpreting. Now, there isn't one set of rules for interpreting all kinds of law. We need to get this very clearly, okay? There isn't one set. For me to go to the rules of interpretation, let me first of all give you what is known as a philosophy, a background from which you look at the law. Okay. The Constitution, the attitude, the philosophical outlook with which you interpret the Constitution is very different from the philosophical outlook from which you are going to interpret penal legislation. All right? I'm just going to take two kinds of laws, which are very different. We do have penal legislation. Penal legislation is criminal law, the law that punishes a person and sends them to prison. That law is known as, those kinds of law are known as penal statutes. Because penal statutes, what they do is they lock up a person, they deprive a person of liberty. Those statutes, all right, if there is an ambiguity in interpreting those statutes, you need to interpret them in a different way. Then, after the penal statutes, there are statutes that we call constitutional statutes. Constitutional statutes simply means the statutes that are constitutional in nature. In Zambia, the primary constitutional statute is what? Is the Constitution of Zambia. At the moment, it's Constitution of Zambia Amendment Act of 2016, Act number 1 and Act number 2 of 2016. Those two are constitutional statutes. The outlook that you need for interpreting penal statutes is different from the outlook you need when interpreting constitutional statutes. The constitutional statute must be interpreted liberally. Why? Because the Constitution is assigning rights between various arms of government. It is assigning responsibilities of the people. It is also apportioning power between different levels of government. And because of that, because the Constitution deals with rights, individual liberties, when you are interpreting it, you must interpret it liberally, which means if there is an ambiguity in a constitutional statute, that statute must be interpreted in a way that is inclusive rather than exclusive. On the other hand, when you are interpreting penal statutes, you need to construe penal statutes strictly, meaning if there is an ambiguity, you narrow it down so that you exclude as many people as possible because it's a penal statute. If you interpreted penal statutes liberally, you're going to lock up the whole country. On the other hand, when you are interpreting constitutional statutes, what you can do is you have to be as liberal as possible so that the Constitution captures and gives rights to as many people in Zambia as possible, not fewer, when there is an ambiguity. Okay? The next thing, the intention of Parliament. All right? So we've looked at penal statutes, we've looked at constitutional statutes. Let's look at the big thing, the intention of Parliament. The intention of Parliament is in the written text of the Constitution. What Parliament intended is in the text. What is written? It is not in the minds of the drafters. So, unless the drafters write a thing, what they thought in their mind is not law, or the discussions that they had is not law. What is law is what they've actually written in the ordinary meaning of the text. That is what law is. So it is not what you think. It is not what is discussed. It is not what is in their minds. It is what they have written. That is the Constitution. So, in Constitution 2016, this is what the Constitution says. If a person wants to be a member of parliament, they must be a Zambian, must have a green national registration card, they must be at least 21 years of age, and they must have, as a minimum qualification, a grade 12 school certificate or its equivalent. Now, forget about what you think or know about what this statement is. It's very clear and straightforward. A person who wants to be an MP must have, as their minimum education qualification, as their minimum academic qualification, a grade 12 school certificate or its equivalent. That's English. That is straightforward. There is absolutely no ambiguity with what the Constitution has said. No ambiguity. Minimum grade 12 or its equivalent. Simple and straightforward. So, before you bring in Zanaco or Airtel, human resources, and I love you, human resource practitioners, you are good people. Number, it does not concern tafimiroleshe mweba ku Airtel na Zanaco. Tafimiroleshe iyo tefienu teriashirienu iriyo. Iriashiri is very simple. Yakobat ule fokui minina minimum nishani grade 12 certificate minimum. Constitution teinendela ndayo ni Constitution iretira aiti minimum is grade 12 certificate or its equivalent. That's what the Constitution says. So what is the problem? Number what you walk over imwe. Let's interpret what Constitution ilandi to kwebate. The only qualification is grade 12 certificate. That is not what the Constitution is saying. If the drafters wanted this Constitution to say that only grade 12, simple, it would have said only grade 12. For example, on age, what is the age requirement? It says that if you want to be an MP, you've got to be 21. Is it 21? Yeah, you've got to be 21. Simple and straightforward. No one. You've got to be 21. It's common sense. You've got to be 21. Chapwa. About academic, minimum is a grade 12 certificate or its equivalent. Number wafya bulikwi. Every Constitution ireranda teine as their minimum academic qualification a grade 12 certificate or its equivalent. Every Constitution in Ireland. This issue came up in 2016. Bantu ECZ wanted to insist to cover also le minina afuire aleta grade 12 school certificate. Sibongile Zulu sued and went to the Kabwe High Court. Justice Sichinga issued in the Sibongile case, Sibongile Zulu and Attorney General, 2016. That decision is one of the best, well-reasoned decisions you will come across. Justice Sichinga. Justice Sichinga was comprehensive. Justice Sichinga looked at the text of the Constitution and issued his decision. That decision was not only correct, but it had impeccable legal and constitutional reasoning. What did Justice Sichinga say? Justice Sichinga said, Ms. Sibongile Zulu has come to the court because she has tertiary education. She's a member of the Chartered Institute of Supply. She's educated. Basambirira. Basibongile Zulu. Elo Sichinga, Berenga Constitution, Abati, Justice Sichinga, Abati, according to what is written in this text of the Constitution, Ababa Sibongile can stand as an MP because she has tertiary education, which is superior to the grade 12 requirement under the Constitution. According to Justice Sichinga, because the Constitution uses the word minimum, it follows that if a person has maximum education, they then meet the requirement. That was Justice Sichinga's reasoning. That reasoning was impeccable. That was correct. And the reason why Justice Sichinga, munje bereko ba Justice nga mwabamona okweba ati area decision area is very powerful. But his decision was impeccable because bali kwetena correct attitude when interpreting constitutional statutes. Why? Constitutional statutes must be interpreted liberally, and if there is any ambiguity, they must be cured in a way that is inclusive rather than exclusive. Because if drafters of the Constitution intend to be exclusive, they can make that exclusion explicit in the text of the Constitution. Where the drafters of the Constitution do not exclude, a court must not exclude. Simple. The one who is interpreting the Constitution must not exclude where the Constitution has not excluded. Why? Because of the nature of the Constitution. Because the nature of the Constitution is that it governs, it binds so many, it binds the entire country. If this document is going to bind the entire country, and there is a word that is ambiguous, when the court is interpreting this document, it must interpret it in a way that includes rather than excludes. That is the Sibongile case. The Sibongile case became the governing precedent. Sibongile took it kuri baisize nokuba fuitira baisize that look at this document now from Kabwe, Justice Sichinga. And that became our governing precedent. Why? Because one, it was very right as far as facts were concerned. Impeccable legal reasoning, impeccable philosophy of interpreting the Constitution. A very good decision, a powerful decision. And as far as I'm concerned, that Sibongile Zulu case must continue governing this issue. All right? It must continue governing this issue. Now, what happened is that whereas this is being governed by the Sibongile case, and ECZ received and accepted nominations from everybody, okay, who demonstrated that their education, they had a little tertiary education here, they had a certificate from there, and they had a few courses. So the Examinations Council of the Electoral Commission of Zambia accepted them, and ECZ was right to accept them. The reason is because of constitutional principle. If there is an ambiguity in the constitution, cure it towards inclusion, not exclusion. Imwete mwapanga constitution, mwafibu okulondolola bwino. Ero nomba at the end mwasala ndati yo mkwaine mwebonse we excluded you. No. Nga mwale panga constitution, mwelefo kuchise exclude abantu. Nga mwali ilanda in the clear language of the text. For example, 21 years old, it's very clear. Omuntu ngati 20 years old, tetemini ne yo, uli mwaiche, uli kanya, tawa iminine. You are under 5. Clear. Nomba imwe mwapanga constitution. Elo nomba chiriye fintu fialo fiawama fionse fiti fye bwino. Elo nomba mwasa ebaba ndenu ati yo, you don't qualify. Kui? What kind of constitutionality is that? Sibongile Zulu. Ebere inendi mukote Sibongile Zulu. Ebere mubukote bwandi ifyo nachitani ifi na perere mu grade shani mulia kajinga ni grade 10. Elo nomba nasaba a professional person in purchasing and supply. Elo nomba nachita obtain various levels of education. Tertiary education, tertiary institutions. Nasambidida. Number constitution yala ndoko but minimum is grade 12. Number in I'm a tertiary educated person. Ale Justice Sichinga, give me a remedy. And Justice Sichinga ruled very correctly. And I commend him for that. It was a powerful decision. Nangule berenga Justice Sichinga's ruling kutu wamono koba to yumuntu yu constitution ali noa ali shila. If you're following me, because Justice Chinga bali nwa constitution bali berenga na philosophy of interpretation yale panga sense. Mwebaume ngamlefo okuchita exclude abantu tampeni tuma company twenu pantu ngana mkwata company kuti mwachita exclude wo mlefu aya Zambia te company yenu. It's simple. If Airtel or Zanaco, human resource, want to limit who they want to employ, they can do that. They are a private company. Zambia is not a private company. The interpretation of the governing law of our country must be as inclusive as possible where there is a possible ambiguity. That's it. There is nothing at your grade 12 because ukusambira in grade 12. It's true, but that is not what the constitution says. Even if you believe ukuba tukusambira in grade 12, I'm okay with that. It's okay. Kutuwa sumine vyo refu kusumina. Nomba, tekulete fyo wakwata mumutwe mumobi atefile andire na constitution iyo bane tefyo. No. Abale panga constitution ngabale fwayo okulanda ati yo mkwaeka no fye grade 12 epela certificate ukatwala ku ECZ ngabadirandire tapali chaba kenye yo balandira ati grade 12 ni minimum, which means Jones chiri maximum kuti watwala nebo panondi kuti natwala degree ama degree 7 kuti na sala poimo pama degree 7 natwala ku ECZ ero nabe bati according to the constitution yala ndoko bati minimum number nshamirethera minimum iyo naramirethera maximum areni she masters icho. That's what the law says. Teine. That is Zambian law. Okay? So Sibongile is correct. Number. There is a colonel back higher. Colonel Nkunika. Vadi minine ku is it Lundazi or Chasefu? Somewhere there. Number owa minine na Nyirenda. Na owa Nyirenda kwati tabako ata grade 12 bwino. Lero. Apo bakote. Badi sambiride ko batola tolo tuma qualifications along the way. Ngefu abakote bonse bachita. Batola tolo tuma qualifications bwino Nyirenda batolo tuma quali along the way. Ukubaya baya sambirira ko panono. No kubaya baya sambirira ko panono. Bakwata koka ka certificate in theology. Basa kwata kona ka certificate mutuntu tu apusana. Ero basa tusankanya tonse tulya. Batwali raisi zedu kwe bati kwena bane. Constitution yala ndati minimum or equivalent. So can she be ninkwata go to tertiary education to efunde Mzambia. Isize nayo te ikani yasumina. Nomba bankunika abati no. Bakana sana abati no. Oyu muntu tachitire qualify. Ekumutuma ekumuchita shano kumuchita su constitutional court. Ichi tuleterere chimfulungania lelo ni constitutional court. Ine kwena na adiyesha okuchindika sana this constitutional court. Eriyo abanandi babashoba ama judges ba constitutional court ndabalandira koko batawe bapereni kwa kashita. Mama, ama constitutional court judges. Go and see. If you're ndanda, number tuanaka with this kind of rulings. Tafire panga sense. Tafire tuwafuirish as a country. This country not to water COVID. This country in Congole to kwete. This country bale it's mismanaged. We cannot be talking about issues of governance. Let's concentrate on the wrong and bad rulings from the Constitutional Court. We can't tolerate this. We can't. Our country must be receiving, and our country deserves very clear, coherent rulings from the Constitutional Court. I'm sorry. Some of you go like, Munja, why do you take these things personal? No, ma visende shine, ne visende personal. Munja, are you a vested interest? No. Inendandira kofi abantu. Nadi kwata grade 12. Nadi pasa at Chingola Secondary School. Na kuICZ badi sign up pali grade 12 yandi. I have no problems. Ngamulefu grade 12 nkamiretera. Te bwafya bwanjuwiyo. Icho ndechita kulandira kwa abantu abo mwala fienga by a ruling that is not coherent and makes no sense. Epera. Nchikwete mo personal interest. Ngafyandi, it's okay. Ninkwata certificate. Mirange. Na ICZ yari sign up pari certificate yandi. Pantunare ibomfya last year. Mufintu mufinare fogo bombera po Mzambia. Tafya bombere. But it's there. Na abo na tuminoku ya sainisha epobali. Kanshi full grade 12 certificate nebo na adikwata na ikwatire kuisa Chingola Secondary School. So this is not about me. Muimona kona kalimo ine I look out for my own interest. Ine I look out for the interest of abantu abo mwala nyantirira by rulings that are incoherent. No ukuyumfwa. You see, we poor countries sometimes tulapanga issues of things that are not really issues. I'm telling you. We make issues no kukana if it is straightforward. For example, somebody tells me ati all universities in Zambia must admit people with grade 12 certificates. That is just not true, okay? I just need to be very honest. That is just not true. Universities in Zambia and around the world, they can still admit mature students who do not have grade 12 certificates. That is what is done all over the world. Even the University of Zambia itself, it used to admit mature students who did not have grade 12. Now, I'm not trying to fight for myself at you on the Londoro Rabofian. In ndifye bwino bane, ndifye bwino nebo ndifye bwino. Ngo ngandefo kwemena nkesa ndifye bwino. I just don't like hypocrisy. No kutitikisha abantu. Nama decisions ayako what tamuli file panga sense. If you that's the only role I have. So Nkunika and Nyirenda. Now, the decision of the court. All right. Last paragraph. Tetuishwe no kuishwa. Ebu wafya tukwete. Mamona, Justice Sichinga, bali chita reason. Kabia nmuberenge Sibongile Zulu case. Imanga yakutira mwalikuata issue with grade 12. It's okay. Okay. Now, I understand. We can differ at that point. But put aside all your prejudices about grade 12 or Vashan and just look at what Justice Chinga rules in that decision. Justice Chinga looks at the Constitution. Elo Bachta derive out of the Constitution rules that are going to govern his interpretation. Elo Bachta interpret ukobati uyusi Sibongile Zulu. Nachta mitama constitutional requirements. Tabale lando ko wati yo Sibongile Zulu alikwata grade 12 nangu alipuisha grade 12 nangu alisambira na mtasambirina. If yo bale landa fyakwe bati okulingana nefe constitution ilelanda uyu Sibongile Zulu has met the requirements because she has tertiary education as a professional in supply, as a member of the Chartered Institute of Supply. She's extremely educated. That is ambidira. So why should they be excluded? Number, a decision to apokedela. From the first of all, it is confusing because nefyo balandide that we shibe. Okay. If you one of the things balandide fyakwebate, that's the overrule if you're landide Sichinga. Abati if you're landide Sichinga will not govern, okay? Elo nomba basala ndoko bati uko tuaya apoka definition ya grade 12 nikuli bazaka na ba ECZ defo mungu fuishe bwino sana. They can't do that, okay? If this constitutional court has ruled, then it has become law. I have no problem with that, but they can't do that. The reason is policy, subsequent policy cannot be used to exclude a constitutional requirement. So what the Constitutional Court is saying is they have let ECZ and the Zambia Qualifications Authority to retroactively define what the school certificate requirement is from a constitution that was passed in 2016. You can't do that. Policy cannot overthrow the constitution. Subsequent definitions that are based on policies cannot come back to change what the constitution says. That is not to say that ECZ and ZACA cannot do whatever they want. They can do whatever they want. But as far as affecting the meaning of the Constitution, no. No. Unless the Constitution empowers, unless the Constitution, that particular Constitution, empowers a subordinate body, that subordinate body cannot usurp the powers that are left for the Constitution. No. This is why, if you want subordinate legislation to either refine or define what is in the Constitution, you use a term as prescribed, meaning in this Constitution, this is what we are saying, but we are not going to be conclusive on this. We will let Parliament prescribe a law that defines this thing. But under those qualifications, there is nowhere where either ZACA or ECZ is given the power to retroactively define what a school certificate is going to be. No. If Nyirenda then qualified in 2016, Nyirenda must still qualify in 2021. Simple common sense. Because what they are saying is they have changed because of the testimony from ZACA and ECZ. No. No. Okay. The last chapter of the Nkunika case, it says that tertiary education, vocational education, and trades are not equivalent to grade 12. Bakweto, I'm sorry. That does not make sense. Just reading that line, the last line from the Nkunika case, it really does not make sense. Because a grade 12 school certificate is not necessarily spending 12 years in school. It is actually writing for a grade 12 school certificate. They're saying, in fact, the GCE ordinary levels, they're saying that they meet those requirements. Is GCE, does it mean that you've spent 12 years in school? No. It simply means that you go and write an exam in chemistry, biology, physics, and maths, and English, and Bemba, and literature. And what else? And if you have 5 credits or whatever credits, then you've got a school certificate. So there could as well be tertiary institutions that provide that education in all these things. In any case, when there is an ambiguity in the Constitution, you construe the Constitution to be as inclusive as possible. Simple. If the judges of this constitutional court have no background in the Constitution, they better tender their resignation and do something else. We cannot be arguing about elementary constitutional principles of how to interpret a constitution. Sorry. Zambia has changed a lot. No. Just be clear, make sense. That's it. That is all we are asking from the High Court, from the Constitutional Court of Zambia. We are tired. We are not going to be taking this anymore. We are beginning to demand the best. We are beginning to demand coherent decisions. That makes sense. This is not a matter of kulifika interpretation kamwaka alubana or anything. No, this is fundamentally writing something. Because what does that sentence mean? Because tertiary education is not similar to grade 12 education. Of course it's not similar. Of course it's not the same, because tertiary education is higher than secondary school education. Simple common sense. So now what is left therefore is there will be another court case. In fact, I'm hereby asking parties, political parties, go back to the Constitutional Court and ask them, if a person brings a degree, is ECZ going to accept or not? You ask them. Because they've quite all right explained what is equivalent to a grade 12. They've also defined what a grade 12 school certificate is. They've used ZACA and ECZ, fine. But now they've not defined what is minimum. What does word minimum mean? Sibongile Zulu was excellent. It defined what minimum was all about. This decision, Nkunika, it has not explained what minimum is. Yeah, awo mwandini. Ono kukota kutuwakota omulandu wako bati instead yoko bati uleberenge efindife kwa fire kumvuisha bwino uleberenge efindife kwa tafire panga sense kutuwakana shano kukota you tell me na nepala efe Joseph bwali alerandira tu wabepala because nepala ne mishishi kuti shakola shani mumutuwe mwako bati uleberenge efindu tafire panga sense tafire panga sense. Okay, nomba bambi bare yumono kuchenjera awe ine nali bafe fair munjerere ko but ine nali bafe and for afyo ko bafe fair ine ishiranda ti yom kwa ipantu ya will not be affected by this. It makes sense ati bonse bafire babwekera it's just a waste of time we muntu walikwata degree from the University of Zambia tawako ete grade 12. It's a complete waste of time, resources and common sense. GCE. Does that make sense? The University of Zambia had the Institute of Distance Education, IDE, a directorate that was specifically designed to take university education to mature, not a direct entrance. Nama entry requirements, IDE, were more flexible in the sense that ngayakutila niwe teacher ngakaunda wapirera mu grade 9 LOI for 1 year teaching certificate waba teacher alena kaunda nakapwepwe. University of Zambia yarisa leta ko Institute of Distance Education ukweba timwe ba teacher ba grade 9 kutu waya ku university waya poka a bachelor's degree in education, religious education shan efyo bachitira benge ama teachers vaya ku University of Zambia bapoka ama degrees badia abapokera ama degrees kulia 30 babe ba MP through distance education. They can't. If you have problems with such people, it's okay. Kutuwako ata problem. Nomba constitution te iwe. Te constitution yakwa noko. Ni constitution ya vena Zambia bonse. So nomba ngaramutira kuli ambiguity. It's secure towards including bonse, not excluding them. If this constitution wanted to exclude them, ngayali landa very clearly kwa tifo tulefu ya bantu wakuwa na balemba exam yaba ECZ. Chapwa. Apa no kulanda ngata tulelanda inonshitanga tule nuafieti. Epela. No mbechirera ngokuba timitima shireka lipe mitwe shifuase. Atu mutwe na ufuasa. It's because of such. Eromba mwatuletera ati yo mkwa Oxford has been admitting people without O levels and A levels for years. Oxford umuntu ngachenjera fe mutuntu. They admit them. That's why they even admit 11-year-olds and 14-year-olds and 15-year-olds to do degrees. Elo nomba mwise mutwebere loko bati ba mature aba ile ku University of Zambia without a grade 12 certificate. They can't be MPs. Undefwe munja fuirisheko. Imwenga chakutira mwali kwata issue na abantu bamoba mwabasambirira bashaka kwata ma grade 12s. It's okay. Nomba mwiletera mo constitution ya Zambia. Mufia bupuba. Iyo. Mweba. Ngefyo muchita yeah, and I'm even picking on Airtel wanzanako. Human resource zanako munjerereko pantu people are using you ati ni mumu alenga mwamwana so nomba therefore kumichita address imwe baza nako HR na ba Airtel HR bale mibepesha ati ni mwe mwalenga kuba fair. any education is necessary to parliament. No. What I'm saying is that constitution, land did minimum grade 12 or its equivalent, minimum grade 12. So bamwe shakwata grade 12, but bali kwata degree. They qualify. Why shouldn't they qualify? If you think that some qualifications are fake, law be or law. Zambia is now liberal. Fake. As long as a paper has been issued by the government of Zambia, high education authority nabazaka, it's a degree. If you have a degree, for no reason, at a development, it's not. It's ignorance. Uchushi. Mano ya muli kaunda, where everything yari short fintu. Everything, salty yari shorter, sugar yari shorter, mango ya fiance, you live under a continuous strain of shortage. Secondary school places, yari shorter.